What's up guys, Raider here. Hope you're all doing great and having a fantastic day. In today's video, we are unboxing and taking a first look at the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold4, along with the standing cover with S-Pen case that comes included free if you pre-order the device. We'll also be doing some initial comparisons to last year, Galaxy Z Fold 3, which I've been daily driving since launch. I am very familiar with this device, so I will be nitpicking the Fold 4 to death. We're going to do some initial comparisons though today, take a look what the media consumption looks like, we're going to fill the crease, we'll test the audio, we're going to do all that in this video, not your typical unboxing. Without any further delay, let's get started. Alright, what we have here is the 512 gigabyte graphite version, so it's going to be the same color match that I had last year, so that'll make for some nice easy comparisons. Looks like we just have these two tabs down here. Alright, let's check the case as well while we got the knife out. Looks like we've got one down on the bottom. Let's get that. Oh, cutting myself here. Put that off to the side. All right, let's go ahead and start with the Galaxy Z Fold 4. All right, here we go. Here's our box. And right off the bat, I'm not sure if this is the color I ordered. And it's not. I just looked with my magnifying glass here on this side of the box because I have terrible eyesight. They sent me the gray-green model. I ordered the graphite black, but guess what? I am not upset at all because I almost canceled my order to get this color. So pleasant surprise, saved me from canceling, even though I would have been more than happy with black. It's what I normally go with. But I guess we got a surprise. Today I got the gray-green model. Was expecting the graphite. Very interesting. Thankfully, it's a 512 gigabyte version, so I'm not going to complain. All right, so here we are. Let's take the peel off. Here we go. That is the first time I have ever ordered a Samsung device, and they have sent me out a different color option than what I ordered. All right, so it feels pretty good. The crease is, you know, it's not really present at all. Let's do a few folds here. You know, because you can't go by it first. You know what I'm going to do, guys? After I get this set up, I'm going to do about 100 to 200 folds on it so we can really get a feel for how that crease is going to stack up. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Let's do something. Let's get this box out of the way here. Don't mean to jump the gun here, but I want to grab the Fold 3. Let's put this off to the side. I know we have some more to cover. Let's go ahead and do this real quick. I'm jumping all over the place, right? For thoroughness, for completeness, we already know what's in here. It's going to be our USB-C cable. Probably just a SIM ejection tool somewhere buried in here. And that's going to be it. Yeah, there's a SIM ejection tool on the inside of there. I see it. That's fine. Usual books and a USB-C cable. And it's very short, guys. So if I had to guesstimate here, we're looking at just like a 3 feet cable. That's ridiculous. Look how short. I don't know if that's coming in on screen. Let me double it up. Look, I'm getting the whole thing on screen here. Fold it up. This is a very short cable, so keep that in mind. You might want to get something a little bit longer if you pick up this device. But what I wanted to show you, before I jumped around all over the place, is the crease here, and I went back to the stock wallpaper. Oh yeah, wow. So if the Fold 4 stays how it is, like I said, I'm going to do a couple hundred crease spins here on it. That is a significant difference on how the crease feels. Let's get it in the light here just a little bit. I'm having a look at my viewfinder. I want to try to get it right in there for you guys. So it shows up a little bit, but I'm telling you, when you feel your hand over it, wow, it is much less pronounced than on last year's Galaxy Z Fold 3. Big difference. That's like the first thing I noticed. So right off the bat, I do notice it's a little bit wider. Let me put it up a little bit closer to myself here. A little bit shorter. We're going to do full measurements and all that and stuff after I get this all set up. Let's take a look around the device itself. Aluminum chassis all the way around. Looks like they stuck with 2 speakers again, which is definitely a bummer. I was hoping to get quad speakers this year because this device really needs it. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. All in all, I say the trim looks pretty nice. Our camera bump looks pretty much identical to last year's. Not much of a difference there. The hinge itself, when you have it unfolded, you don't really see much of a difference. Let's go ahead and fold this up. I'm still blown away that they sent me a different color than what I ordered. That has never happened. So here we see it on the Fold 3, kind of protruding out. Kind of hard to see with it being black. But let's take a look at it right here. Yeah, it's a little flatter. However, in turn, and I'm going to measure this too, is that gap definitely looks like it's more of a gap than what we have on the Fold 3. We'll measure that after I get it all set up. We're going to do a lot of that stuff. All right, guys, we'll get acquainted with this in a little bit, and we'll come back to it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the case that they include for free if you pre-order the device. And I'm opening it from the wrong end here. I'm just not having luck getting stuff open today. So let's take a look at this. Here's our S Pen Fold Edition. Let's go ahead and take this out. Nice, so it already comes in the sleeve that's going to attach to the case. Let's go ahead and look at what else you get included with this. Looks like some directions. Our outer front display cover. Sweet, we get some extra S Pen nibs, so you don't have to worry about that. These normally comes in sets of 3, so I assume that's what's in here, along with an S Pen nib puller, so you can pull it right out. Very nice. It's very cool that they included that. And here is the back case itself. Looks like they have the kickstand cover already attached. And I assume to remove this, yeah, there we go. We're just going to remove that like that. And then this, if I can get my hands on it, should go just like that. Yeah, it looks pretty sweet. So let's go ahead and put it on the back here. All right, it fits pretty easily. Got our S Pen in the back. Oh wow, that S Pen is very secure, so you might have to pull that in and out a few times to start to loosen it up. I like, oh, let me feel this too here. I like that. Hold on, did I notice that? Let me see. Very cool. So when you get over here, let me show you guys. When you get over this hump right here, you see there's this indentation in the case. The S Pen literally like automatically kind of like latches itself into the case. You can hear it. Boom, snap. It like snaps into place. Very cool. I like that design a lot. Something else I noticed right off the bat, which I'm not too fond of, is the front outer display does not come with a screen protector pre-installed like we got on the Galaxy Z Fold 3. So if you want to protect your front screen more so than just having this, you might want to pick up a Spigen screen protector, which will be tempered glass or one of the variants like that, or get the Samsung film cover to put some type of protection over it, especially if you tend to keep your phone in the same pocket as your keys. Keys are very detrimental to phone screens. So we have no outer screen protection here. Yep, we do have the default like plasticky type inner screen cover on the inside screen. Again, I'm really impressed by this Fold. It's not going to show up in video, but I'm telling you with my finger, it is definitely much improved. All right, guys, so let me get this set up. We'll get the case on here and all that good stuff, and we'll do some quick comparisons with the Galaxy Z Fold 3, and of course, as the days goes on, we'll have a lot more on this new Z Fold 4, especially in regards to the battery life and getting some good camera pics. All right, guys, I'll be back in a little bit. All right, guys, I am back, but it's been a little bit more than 2 or 3 hours. It's actually been just shy of 3 days. So got a little distracted by all the devices, like this Watch 5 Pro, which is awesome, by the way. I am on day 3, and I'm at 29% battery left. This is a 4-day watch. I am totally impressed. And the Buds Pro 2, which I've already dropped a video on this. These are absolutely amazing. So a little behind on this, but the good thing is that's given me plenty of time to get familiar with the new Z Fold 4. I've got a couple complaints about it, and then I've got quite a few positive things to share about it. But first, let's talk about the specs, and then towards the end of the video, we'll also go over whether or not I recommend this as an upgrade for current Z Fold 3 owners, and whether or not this is a first great foldable for those of you that are looking to try them for the first time. All right, so let's go ahead and rip through the specs real quick. This year we have a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, which is 2 generations newer than the 888 that we had on the Z Fold 3. And the really cool thing about this year's chip is it's manufactured by TSMC, which is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company. They are absolutely awesome. They make the best chips out there. They blow Samsung's chips out of the water. Not all Snapdragons are created equal. This is as good as it gets. Very pleased to see that. So that's going to give us a 30% efficiency boost, about 10 to 20% on the performance gains, and we're getting a 70% increase on the NPU, which is a neural processing unit. The NPU is used for the camera. So we're basically going to get better photos out of this. We already know that with that 50 megapixel shooter. So for the operating system, we have Android 12L with One UI 4.1.1. We're getting 4 years of OS upgrades, 5 years of security updates. So you're looking at OS updates up through the middle of 2026 at a minimum, security updates through the middle of 2027. We'll definitely take that. For all the Z Fold models, you're looking at 12 gigabytes of RAM. Storage options are 256 gigs, 512, 1 terabyte. You're looking at LPDDR5 RAM, and the storage on this is UFS 3.1. For the back camera array, we're looking at a 50 megapixel wide-angle lens with a focal length of 1.8, 12 megapixel ultra wide with a focal length of 2.2, and a 10 megapixel sensor with 3x optical zoom, 30x digital space zoom with a focal length of 2.4. The front camera is unchanged from last year's Z Fold 3. This is a 10 megapixel focal length 2.2 lens. And for the under display camera, which is located right here, I'm seeing conflicting things. On some sites I'm seeing it's a 4 megapixel second gen under display camera, and others I'm seeing that it's a 16 megapixel. Either way, you're not going to get great pics out of this UDC, but thankfully it is a little bit less pronounced and less visible on the Z Fold 4 as opposed to last year's 3. The battery remains the same, 4400 mAh. We're looking at 25 watts wired charging, 10 watts wireless. The dimensions are 130.1 by 155.1 by 6.3 millimeters thick unfolded. We're looking at a weight of 263 grams, which is 8 grams lighter than last year's. You do feel it just a little bit. The cover screen is 6.2 inches, 2316 by 904 pixels. We're looking at a 23.1 to 9 aspect ratio. The refresh rate on this is 48 to 120 hertz adaptive refresh rate. And for the main panel, we're looking at 7.6 inch diagonal, 2176 by 1812 on the pixels. This is a 21.6 by 18 aspect ratio. And you're looking at it, the new 1 to 120 hertz adaptive refresh rate, as opposed to the 10 to 120 hertz refresh rate of last year's model. S Pen support only on the main screen, not on the cover screen, and we're looking at Gorilla Glass Victus. Latest Wi-Fi, latest Bluetooth, everything you expect on a current gen model. All right, so what I want to talk about next is the cons. So I've been using this device for a solid 3 days now, and there's just a couple little things. Let's start with the case first, since we're kind of covering both of these in the same video. Let me go ahead and pop this case back on here, right? This is the S Pen case you got free if you pre-ordered the device. All in all, it's a nice case. Like, I like the feel of it. I like the way it looks cosmetically, aesthetically on the phone itself. It's got a nice feel to it. Kind of feels like the silicone case from last year, but not quite. You know, I'd say the silicone feels a little bit more premium, but I really like how the pen goes in here like we talked about, right? But just a couple things about it. So this front cover part right here, right? This thing, I spent like 15 minutes taking off the little blue tape and making sure I had the phone nice and clean and wiped down. I pushed down on this thing for like a solid 5 to 10 minutes in each of the sections where there was a little stickum, you know what I mean, on all these front cover cases. This thing does not stick worth a crap. It came right off within 24 hours. So it's basically just kind of a stick-on front case now, which I am not too happy about. And I think the main reason that it's really just not wanting to stick and it didn't take hold is because to get this wider front screen, let me just take it off here real quick. We hardly have any bezel at all on this whole left side for this to stick to at all. Nothing. So all of the sticking happens right here, you know, in these sections. And the thing is they didn't really cover the whole body of it, and it's just not really a sticky enough of a material. I didn't have this problem with the silicone case from Samsung last year. The cover fit on it fine. I used it until it broke. And that's the thing too, is I do recommend you have one of these on, because if your phone ever does take a spill, this will probably be the first thing to break. So I am a little disappointed that that just doesn't stay on there. I don't know if any of you guys will have the same problem, but that's my first experience, at least with this front part of the cover. The other thing I will say about this case, and this isn't necessarily a con, this is more of a public service announcement. So I've been watching quite a few different reviews. You know, I'm a tech guy. I keep up with the other channels and all this and that. And I keep up with Reddit a lot as well. And I'm seeing a common theme going on. And that is I'm seeing, and I'm not going to call anyone out on this or anything. This, like I said, just a PSA. But the thing is I'm seeing a lot of mentions of holding the device like this and holding it with the S Pen cover. And I'm just going to say right here on the record, don't do this. Don't hold your device like this unless you're left-handed. So if you hold the device with your right hand like this, you're fine. You know, if you're writing with your S Pen with your left hand and doing input with your left hand, if you're a left-handed person, totally cool, no problems. However, if you're right-handed, you hold your pen with your right hand like I do. If you're doing all your typing and navigating the screen with your right hand and you hold the device with your left hand, do not hold it by this S Pen thing. And the reason being is because the S Pen, this whole holder, is designed to slide out this way. Okay, so what happens is, or what can potentially happen, if you're having a really bad day or somebody comes up behind you and startles you, like they tap you on your shoulder, what's your gut reaction when somebody taps you and you don't see them or anything? Your gut reaction when you're holding a device is to squeeze it a little bit tighter to grip whatever you're holding on to. And it doesn't matter what you're holding. You could be, holding an ice cream cone. You can be holding your car keys. You can be holding a piece of paper. Your gut reaction as a human being is to grip whatever you're holding. You're going to get that little jitter, and you're going to hold on to whatever you have. And what's going to happen is this. That's what's going to happen. This whole thing is going to be in your hands, and your Fold 4 is going to be on the concrete. And the reason being, this cover is not going to hold this S-pin here because this cover just doesn't stay on. Even if you guys get it to stick, it's not going to be enough to keep this S-pin from sliding right out the back end here. And even if this cover was on here, I still would not chance it. So, I mean, you got an $1,800 device here, and you're holding it by something that easily slips in and out of the back of the case, just like that. Don't hold it by this. I don't care what videos you guys are watching. I mean, please, guys, I would hate for you guys to have one of your Fold 4s just drop flat out down on the concrete because this S-Pen does that on you. Okay, this can happen. And also, please keep in mind as well, this is just like a composite plastic going up against a composite plastic. This is going to wear over time. That little bumpity bump feel that you have, that's going to be less resistant as time goes on, meaning this is going to be even easier to come off. So do not hold your case by the back S-Pen like this. Just do this. Just put your hands around the outside of it. You have a firm grip. You can get your finger right up here. Doesn't matter if you have the S-Pen on here. I'll show you. All right, so we got the S-Pen on there. Put your hand around here. Your finger stays away from the cameras and all that. This is a way to do it. This way you have a nice firm grip. And it's not going anywhere. I can shake this phone left and right. It is not leaving my hands. And if someone comes up behind you and startles you, your gut reaction is to squeeze it tighter. No problem. That just means you have more of a death grip on the device. So I would highly suggest that everyone avoids holding it by this S-Pen cover, even though you're going to see it often. Hold it from the outside edge like this. It is your best bet. All right, guys, and the next con I want to talk about, and it's not so much a con really, it's just more something that's been a little bit frustrating that I've been having to adjust to, and that is the Z Fold 4 has slimmer bezels around the edge, which looks very aesthetically pleasing. It looks really nice. However, I notice that oftentimes when I'm in this position here, I have the device unfolded and I'm typing in portrait mode, because these bezels are now a lot less pronounced than on the Z Fold 3, I often find that the meat of my palm right here, this section that I'm gripping, sometimes will hit this corner right here and it retracts the keyboard. And it's really frustrating when I'm in YouTube Studio responding to your guys' comments, because I'll get this message that pops up, keep writing or discard. And I have to go and hit keep writing. I was trying to do it right here, but there's no comments pending, so I can't do it in YouTube Studio. It'll just keep showing up with this message, keep writing, discard. And I'll have to hit keep writing. And then as I'm typing along, doing this stuff, so this will happen right here. You see how it's lowering the keyboard? And I know I'm exaggerating it a little bit here for the camera, but do believe me, guys, when I'm telling you that in certain applications, not so bad here, but like in YouTube and stuff, the meat of my palm just keeps hitting this little corner right here and it keeps retracting the keyboard. Now, I just kind of adjusted to where I've just kind of moved my hand a little bit more like this and elevated a little bit higher off the fold, and it helps. But I'll tell you what, every once in a while, just out of nowhere, that'll happen. And that never happens to me on the Fold 3. So just something to point out, the thinner bezels, there's always a trade-off with everything you do. Everything looks nice and dandy on the surface, but the reality is it does make it to where you can do some accidental keyboard touches and accidentally get it to retract. So that's kind of a bummer. Not a big deal. I'm adjusting to it, getting a little bit better here on day 3. I'm sure in another week from now, it probably won't happen to me anymore because, my hands will just be used to repositioning. But it does kind of suck that I am having to adjust to that. So that's another con. And that's really, guys, that's like really the only cons that I have. I did notice one weird thing to where when you're using the multitasking, let me show you that real quick. You just open an app, swipe from the bottom with 2 fingers. Every once in a while, and it's not doing it now, the applications that you see right here would stop right here and there would just be a gray bar, like a continuation of this taskbar, right? And then when I go to open up a second app, like let's open up Chrome here real quick, Chrome would only fill up this much of the screen and then the bottom would be gray. That's happened to me like 2 times. Hasn't happened since, and I have done some updates in the Galaxy Store, including One UI Home, so maybe that's fixed this issue because it hasn't happened since then, but I do want to bring it to your attention in case you guys see any funky weirdness. I didn't have to restart my phone or anything. It just kind of corrected itself after a couple minutes. So guys, that really wraps up the cons. Now let's go ahead and move on to some pros, and then we're going to talk about the audio and the media consumption, and then whether or not I recommend it. So on the pro side, there's quite a few pros I want to talk about. So I mentioned earlier in the video that the crease is less pronounced, and now after using it after 3 days and having probably 500-600 folds on this thing, I can continue to confirm that the crease is less pronounced when I go back and forth, and it is noticeable. It is quickly and easily noticeable by anyone, not just myself. I had my fiance try. Anyone else that tries is going to say the same exact thing, and that is the crease is less noticeable. It's, you know, whether or not you notice it on camera, that's its own thing, but I'm talking about the feeling of it underneath your fingers, your thumb, your forefinger, the S Pen while you're writing. It is less of a crease, for sure. And do keep in mind, guys, I know a lot of you are going to say, well, they need to get rid of the crease entirely. I know that they're working on it. Samsung's been testing a lot of different implementations, but do keep in mind that having this little bit of crease is what's allowing them to get that water resistance that's not available on any other foldable device. All right, so the crease is a little bit better. The next thing I want to mention is the brightness. So the Z Fold4 gets significantly brighter. In fact, 939 nits compared to 752 on the Z Fold 3. And also keep in mind, guys, new for this year, and I'm sure you guys have seen this in other videos, but if we go to display, and if you turn off adaptive brightness, you're going to now have this extra brightness toggle, and it's likely not going to show up here in the video, but I will tell you what, when you guys go outside with it, it makes a huge difference. I'm actually going to drop a little separate video that shows a brightness comparison, and you'll see in that video that this one definitely outperforms the Fold 3 in an outdoor setting. So if you've been using your Fold 3 outside and you just wish it had a little bit more on that brightness side, here you go. Fold 4 has got you covered, for sure. It's way brighter. Next thing I want to talk about that's a pro are the animations in Android 12L. I've been really pleased with them. Check this out, guys. Let me show you a little demo here. So just pay attention to this bottom section of icons, right? We've got the phone, the text messaging, Play Store, and the camera. Watch what happens to them here. We get the taskbar that kind of slowly flows into view here. Now watch what happens. Boom, you see how those just kind of popped in like that? Watch that again. Just pay attention to this bottom section here. Look how smooth that is, like butter. You know what I mean? You'll see that all over the place. This is just like a quick example I can show you guys. Look at the app drawer. Look how smooth that is. You know, and I don't know if it's a new chip or if it's just the implementation of Android 12L, but the actual smoothness is just beautiful on this device. I mean, this is Apple-esque right here. You know, seriously, it really is. This is like iOS level smoothness that I have yet to ever experience on a Samsung device. So kudos to the devs on the Android 12L side, and kudos to TSMC for giving us this chipset, because the combination, as far as the smoothness goes, look at that butterness. Look at that. Whew. Watch that. It's just like butter. Fast, slow, it doesn't matter. That 120 hertz refresh with this Android 12L is making for a nice, smooth experience. I like it. It's enough for me to mention it. Right, the next pro I want to show you guys, and something I'm really liking a lot, is the keyboard implementation on the front cover screen. So I've got Gboard loaded up on both of them. I know it looks like a different keyboard. That's because this one's themed out and this one's using the stock. But take a look at the width on these. Let me get this closer into view on the Fold 3. All right, let me put this up here and make sure it stays in focus. All right, so we got this right into view, and you can see how wide or lack of how wide these keys are. Let me go ahead and put the Z Fold 4 up into focus. Okay, let's get this close. Let me get that a little closer for you guys. Look how much wider those keys are. I don't know if this is going to show up on camera. I'll try to zoom in if I can during the edit process, but the keys are spaced not much more wider, but enough to make for a much more pleasing typing experience. And I know that's important for a lot of you guys, you know, because we do have a 2mm wider screen, and you can see that the Fold 4 screen is definitely wider. It is up top. You know, let's put it here side by side. You know, it's not too noticeable when you're looking at content and stuff like this or YouTube, but I do believe, like, here, let me get this into view here. Yeah, we've got a couple millimeters extra here to work with. I'll try to get those both into view for you. There we go. So, I mean, it is definitely wider. I'm lining up the left edges of the screen. So if you see the devices look off kilter, I'm lining up the actual display area. So, yeah, we definitely have more width on the Fold 4. Definitely a pro. All right, guys, the next pro that I want to share with you has been the battery life. So like I said a little while ago, I'm on day 3 of this device. So I've done 2 charges so far. And do keep in mind that before I even power this device on for the very first time, I charged it up to 100%. So during the first charge, it was doing all my file transfers via Samsung Smart Switch, optimizing all my applications, copying over all of my ROMs, all my games, all my pictures, all that type of stuff, doing all the background processes. And on my first charge, and you'll see here, I'll move this over a little bit so you can see the battery percentage because the current one is covering it. I took it all the way down to 2% that you can see right there. And I got 22 hours and 47 minutes. 6 hours and 51 minutes of that was screen on time. And do keep in mind that it hasn't even learned my device usage patterns at this point. This is day one. You know what I mean? So this is the least amount of performance you're going to get out of this battery. Almost a full day, almost 7 hours of screen on time, doing all the initial setups and me like installing and uninstalling apps. And as a tech guy, I've gone through every one of the settings in this device, right? So everything you can imagine right up front during this first charge, it was done. And I got almost a full day, 7 hours screen on time. So on my next charge that I did after that one, I let it go down to 4% and I got 1 day, 8 hours use out of it and almost 4.5 hours screen on time in that day and a half. So I wasn't on the device quite as much, but as you see here, I got 1 1/3 days use out of the device and it wasn't all the way dead yet, down to 4%. It could still go a little bit lower. It's still learning my device patterns. So all in all, I would say the battery upgrade on this has been quite improved over the Z Fold 3. And I know that's a major reason for a lot of you want to upgrade. So battery life, definitely improved on this. All right, guys, next I want to talk about audio. So on last year's Z Fold 3, we have 2 speakers, one on the top left, one on the bottom left, with 10 holes up on the speaker grill, as opposed to this year's 11 holes in the speaker grill on both the top and bottom. And I will have to say that I'd say the audio is a little bit better on the Z Fold 4. It's a little more fuller sounding. I would also say it maybe gets like 1 tick louder. Nothing to really write home about. The difference isn't striking or anything like that, but you do notice this has a little bit fuller sound. I'll try to demonstrate it here. I don't think it's going to come through too well in this video because the difference isn't significant enough for any mics to really pick it up, but let's give it a try anyway. This is one of my own videos. We'll just listen to talking. Z Fold 3 maxed out.
First look at the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Here's the thing, it's going to take a lot to dethrone the Buds Plus as being...
That's a Z Fold 3. Let's crank up the 4 here.
And taking a first look at the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro.
Louder.
Here's the thing.
Definitely louder on the 4.
It's going to take a lot to dethrone the Buds Plus
little fuller.
as being like the most comfortable IEMs I've ever worn.
So yeah, I would say the audio is definitely a little bit better. Music sounds just a tad bit fuller. I do have one complaint though, guys. I know I'm just throwing this out here because it's really bugging me as a musician. And that is on all these foldables, and not even just Samsungs, like all of them that are coming out. And I don't get it. Maybe you guys can shed some light on it for me. I just don't understand why they stick with 2 speakers on the left-hand side. Because this is the way I hold the Fold most of the time, like this. And I'm not always going into landscape mode because it's a little bit goofier to hold. So when I hold it like this, it sounds really weird to hear the audio coming from this left side because you don't have anything on the right. Remember, look how far these grills are over here. Same on the Fold 4. It'll be easier to see on this one because we have the silverish, aluminum casing here, outside, I should say. So you see the speaker grill. Let me get it in front of the camera. It's way over here to the left. You know what I mean? Down here on the bottom too. So when you're holding it like this, it really sounds weird. It still sounds awkward to me to this day. A year later, going from the 3 to the 4, it just sounds so weird hearing all the voices and everything come over to this side a little bit. Almost sounds like you have swimmer's ear in your right ear when you're using one of these. And it's not much better when you go this way, because if you want to keep the power button and the volume buttons up here, like I prefer to, you could go like this, but now you're going to have them underneath your hand and stuff like that. But if you go like this, you're now covering up one of the speakers with your palm. So you pretty much only have audio coming out the right side, and it's muffled over here. Here's my suggestion. I don't know what you guys think about this. I think we should have quad speakers, 2 here, 2 here, move the power port a little bit over to the side, and then when you fold the device up, 2 of the speakers should get disabled. That way they don't have phasing problems. You know how you have 2 speakers next to each other, they can sound weird. And then when you're done in the folded position and you go to open it back up, all 4 of the speakers turn back on. Then we would have true stereo sound, to where you're feeling the sound coming all around you. Because remember, guys, we only have 3 senses that interact with these devices, right? Our vision, our hearing, and touch. And that's one of our 3 key senses. and it just feels really weird to have everything off to the left. All right, I beat that dead horse enough. I'm sorry, guys. It just really kind of bugs me about these. I'm hoping to see improvements on the audio side of things in the future. Next, I want to talk about the media consumption experience on both these devices. So I've gone along and I've taken a bunch of measurements of all the different ways that you can observe media on this device. I want to share the differences with you guys. So if you're watching a YouTube video on the front cover screen, on the Fold 3, you're looking at 54 millimeters this way, 30 millimeters of viewable content this way. Now on the Fold 4, we have an upgrade on both areas. You have 58 millimeters going this way and 32 millimeters going this way. So we have an increase in height and width. So in portrait mode here, which is the typical way that I typically watch YouTube when I'm just holding a device like this, we have 124 millimeters width viewable area on the Z Fold 3. We have 68 millimeters tall, all right? So we have an even bigger experience here on the Z Fold 4, 127 millimeters wide, so 3 millimeters wider, and 70 millimeters tall versus 68 on the Z Fold 3. So we get a bigger viewing experience on the Z Fold 4 when watching in this mode here. Now in stretched portrait mode, like you see here, we're looking again at 124 by 68 by 127 by 70. Nothing changes here between the last mode we just looked at and this one. So again, on the Z Fold 4, you're getting a little bit bigger viewing experience on YouTube. All right, now in this mode, which is kind of the standard landscape mode, right, when we don't use a bigger picture and we have the YouTube video just sitting up in the corner, we're looking at 98 millimeters by 55 millimeters tall. Over here on the Z Fold 4, we're looking at a 96 millimeter by 54 millimeter height. So in this particular situation, the Z Fold 3 is significantly larger than what you're going to get on the Z Fold 4. Now we have the devices switched over into flex mode, which is super cool. We did a separate video all about flex mode earlier on the channel. Love it. One of the key factors for wanting to get a foldable. I'm telling you guys, it is awesome. So here in flex mode, where we can stroll through our comments and all that and have the video playing, we are looking at 100 millimeters wide on the Z Fold 3 by 59 millimeters tall. Now over here on the Z Fold 4, we are looking at 98 millimeters wide, followed by 57 millimeters tall. So once again, on the Z Fold 3, just a tad bit bigger viewing angle. Now what we have in front of you is quite possibly the most common viewing angle that most of you are going to watch media in, right? You have it in landscape, full screen without doing this stuff, you know, because you end up cutting stuff off. But the full screen view with the black bars, here's what you're looking at. You're looking at 147 millimeters again across for the Z Fold 3, 83 millimeters height on viewable area. For the Z Fold 4, we are looking at 149 millimeters this way. And here's the thing that's really interesting, guys, and I measured this like 4 times because it just kind of threw me for a loop here. The height there is still 83 millimeters. Typically, when you have a different aspect ratio, because remember, the Z Fold 4 is a 6x5, whereas the Z Fold 3 is a 5x4, you're always going to have different black bars and different viewable content, you know, regardless of anything. And it's just really interesting to me that we have 83 millimeters on height for both these devices. So the reality is, and this really threw me for a loop because I thought for sure the Fold 3 was going to have a bigger viewing experience because it's not so square. The reality is you actually get more viewable area on the Z Fold 4. 2 extra millimeters wide, the height stays the same. I was really surprised by that. Not sure if you guys are, but that's really interesting. So all in all, for most different viewing angles that you're going to have and experiences, including HBO Max, which turns out to be the same as this as well, you're going to have a little bit better experience on the Z Fold 4. All right, guys, so before we get into whether or not I recommend this device for you guys, I do recall mentioning in the first part of the video, talking about the gap here, right? How much it comes in and closes in on each side. I will say on the Z Fold 4, this gap, when I measured it, it appears to be just under 1 millimeter bigger on this end here, all right? So it does protrude just a tad bit more. Do I notice it when I hold the devices? No, not really. Not really. You're not going to feel it or anything, but when you visibly look at it and you see light going through it, you can see just a little bit more light coming through on the Z Fold 4. I wanted to circle back to that, make sure I didn't forget it. So, all right, guys, so let's sum this up here. So if you are a current Z Fold 3 owner, do I recommend that you upgrade to this year's Z Fold 4? Well, it's actually really simple. Actually, I think it's a super simple decision. It comes down to 2 things, really. It comes down to the battery life, comes down to the cameras, which we'll touch on in the full review. I didn't want to bother putting some preliminary shots because it's just not going to do it justice. We already know from seeing so many other videos, from the specs, from the 70% gain on the NPU, you're going to have better pictures on here. So if photography is important to you, and if battery life is important to you, yeah, get yourself a Z Fold 4. It's more polished. The hinge itself feels a little bit more premium. It's got a more premium look. It's just the way to go, especially on the battery life, because it's been kind of the Achilles heel over here for the Z Fold 3. However, and one other thing too, before I say however, if you're on the front cover screen and you're typing a lot, it's quite a bit easier on the Z Fold 4. For me anyway. I mean, the size of your thumbs and all that's going to make a big difference. But I do find the typing experience more pleasurable here, though I tend to always have my device unfolded, more often than not. So it doesn't affect me personally, but I want to throw that out there for you guys. So as I was saying, however, if battery life and the cameras aren't really that big a deal for you, wait for the 5. Just wait for the 5. Don't spend your money on the 4, because that's really what you're getting. Everything else is just little tiny refinements, little improvements in the crease, a little extra brightness, a little bit better audio, all the things you expect on an incremental release for a new product, right? I mean, this thing's already been out year after year after year. You expect those things to get better. You know, I wouldn't buy it for the performance. I wouldn't really buy it for the little improvement on the crease. I wouldn't buy this just for the little extra brightness. You want to consider the whole picture, and I would really make the deciding factors like the battery life and the cameras, because that's where it's at with this. For those of you that don't have or have never tried a foldable, I'm going to say this, you know, here's the deal. I've been using the Fold 3 since launch. Now going on this, we're now in my 2nd year of using a foldable device. I absolutely love foldables. And I'm going to also say this too, and I'm going to kind of end it on this note, guys. I know this is going to sound weird, and I want to tell you guys that to me, everyone on this planet is equal. We're all just people doing our thing. If you're a good person, you're a good person. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person. We're all just people. But I will say this. When I roll up to my kids at school and I'm wearing my little Van shoes that are a couple years old and I've got an old t-shirt on and I'm wearing my Adidas sweatpants, you know, I get looked at like, man, who the heck is this guy? You know, and everyone's busting out their iPhones, taking pictures of their kids. And here's what happens. I reach down into my pocket, I pull this out, whip out the Fold right in front of my kids to take pictures. All the kings and queens, they all gather around and they gaze at the wild wonder, at the joy they had found. Because when you pull out the Fold, you instantly become a boss. A boss. That's what I feel like every time I'm using this thing out in public. The people just look. They look at you like, what the heck is that thing? It's the Fold, baby. It's this. It's a book in your hand. It's so many different types of things. And as a kid that grew up watching Transformers, you know, the cartoons, and buying Optimus Prime, Decepticon, and playing with them, it is so cool to go, choo 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 choo. Oh, Optimus, we got to roll out. Choo 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 choo. We're gone. It doesn't get old. Unfolding this to me does not get old. I just love having a mini tablet in my hands. I'm going to get in the S23 Ultra when it comes out here in a few months. But I'll tell you what, guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to switch out the Fold to the S23 Ultra for that to be my daily driver. I don't know if I can do it. I have a strong feeling I'll be holding on to the Z Fold 4 and I'll be trading in something else to get that trade-in value for the S23 Ultra, because I don't think I can give up on foldables. I really don't. And this is the future, guys. I'm telling you guys, Samsung is predicting that 50% of their sales for their flagship products in 2025 will be foldable devices. It's headed that way. Sales keep increasing because they're flipping awesome, man. This device is awesome. It's new. It's different. It's not the same old year after year. S-Line, iPhone. Hey, look at you, look at you. The same cookie cutter stuff. I'm not a cookie cutter type of guy. I roll my own. I blaze my own trail. Z Fold 4. Loving it. All right, guys. I'll have the full review out soon. As always, thanks for watching.